thing. But as things were just about to get normal, the second wave has sent everyone into a shock with the kind of more virality that we are seeing currently. How is NIC coping up with this, and what do you see now the future of work will look like?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As you've already said, that this second wave has had a far more severe impact than what we have seen in the other times. Fatality is also far more higher, and all kind of anxiety is there around. If we look at it, NIC on a personal front, we had a lot of setback. We lost of our colleagues, dear colleagues, to this in their fight to COVID. That's been a real sad thing. But if you come on the work front, you see we've been managing and supporting government since 23rd March 2020 as far as enabling them to work from home, accessing their digital files or their messaging or doing procurements, or having people help me taking their HR systems, accessing online payment, e-pay and all. Then email, all these things, people, I mean, over the time in the last 1 year, through a secure channel, we have enabled employees to government employees, whether in central government and many other state governments. And in fact, while we were doing all those things, we were internally, group of people also came up with the idea that let's have, because there's a lot of uncertainty in this whole COVID second wave, third wave, and that time also it was talked about. So let's have some kind of a, that time, these tools were given an individual access through a single sign-on kind of a thing. Why not build a work from anywhere platform for the government employee, which not only gives them in a secure manner access to all the day-to-day applications which they need to do, at the same time also give them a feel like a virtual office. I mean, there has to be a virtual assistant who will be helping you. There has to be calendar, there has to be notes, there has to be all other a phone to call or a video meeting to be happening. So we had built this platform, and early this year we had already implemented this in our own ministry, that is Ministry of Electronics and IT. And in March somewhere we were discussing to now rolling it out after having run successfully in the ministry for about 2 months. We thought, let us now roll it out to the government as a whole. So we were in the process of giving that platform to everybody, so that this whole concept of working from home or working from, because people need to travel as the time will go. So this was a very powerful platform done. We are still in the rolling it out, but the pace definitely has been impacted because of this second wave. So work front people have not been, because they've already got used to working from home, working for remote. So same is with citizen services. We have these data centers, and also there also those SOPs or those mechanism was already placed. We had to again come. Only thing is this time availability of people, because of the impact, was far less than what was the scare was also fair. So we had to put really high level task force to really, or committees to really help these people in case of need and giving them that comfort. But overall, I think on work front we are pretty good. And to the government also, we've been able to support through the systems maturity we had received over time.
Sure, Nitya. Gaurav? Gaurav, you're on mute, please.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Adhikari, and ma'am, it's always a pleasure to talk to you at any forum. And I know NIC's been through some very challenging times because of loss of life as well of very respected officers and other retired officers. So, ma'am, I'm assuming this platform that you were talking is a subsection of the email application that you had delivered, or is it a part of the e-office initiative, or is this something completely new that got developed outside these two application tracks that we know of?
No, it is neither email. This is neither e-office. This is the umbrella application which encompasses e-office, which encompasses email, which encompasses our web-based VC facility, which encompasses our eHRMS, which encompasses ePay, eGPF. It's a far more thing, but underlying all these components are being connected to that whole system of API and single sign-on and things like this. this. The beauty is it also has a provision. Let's say we will have some commonly used applications which we have already connected, but each department or each state government may have their own specific applications. So it has an API framework through which even those applications could also be connected.
Very interesting, ma'am. Ma'am, and obviously I have been a beneficiary of the CoWIN app because the changing workloads and the way workloads have been changing, and NIC Cloud has been at the forefront of managing infrastructure for public apps and the apps that governments uses. What's the how do you see the roadmap of the cloud that NIC has? Do you see adoption of more public cloud facilities for scale, for DR going forward, or you still think NIC will keep building more of internal capacity to hold these applications which are critical to run the government initiatives, etc.?
Look, we had launched, as you know, our National Cloud 2014, and since then it has, I'm really pleasantly happy to see the way government has adopted it. And today, most of the Digital India initiatives are being powered by this cloud. Having said that, we definitely know that going forward, while we continue to increase our cloud capacity, but there will definitely be requirements for more and more cloud capacity. And with this COVID and all, among all the adversities, one thing has happened: it has brought digital to the core of strategy of every organization. So we're going to see an exponential growth as far as digital transformation initiatives of the government is concerned. So we may require far more cloud capacity, and therefore, and sometimes you have these bursts into things like, you had Arogya Setu or now today COVID. So definitely we should have strategy where we could connect through this hybrid kind of a mode to these public clouds and always hire them for these things. The only thing which we need to really keep in mind while we are doing these things, we have Data Protection Act, which is in Parliament to be coming. So whenever we are hiring these all clouds, though our cloud industry today, if we look back 2 years to now, is far more compliant, is far more mature. So we are at a good position where we can always think of hiring these places. But the Data Protection Act and which data to keep in government data centers, which to go out, has to be really always kept in mind while taking these decisions.
Sure, ma'am. So basically, work from anywhere, adopt cloud as long as data security is maintained based on the government law of land and framework are two themes that you see government will keep building on and adopt in various departments and states. Ma'am, the other question then it comes to the apps, right? For example, I know the NIC mail messaging app was developed on an open source platform. eCodes, eHospital were all developed on open source as a platform. Today, most modern apps are being developed by using microservices, containers, and deployed through Kubernetes, etc. So do you see a roadmap of some of these traditional apps that have been developed by NIC on these tools that were the best of breed at that point of time, but again, getting them changed to see and adopt things like Kubernetes and containers as you move along?
Yes, of course. In fact, we are already on it. You see what is whether it is e-office, e-code, none of these applications can really sit in isolation today. They really need to be connecting with various systems. Look at e-code. Now, e-code needs to connect, if it's a challan, to a transport system of vehicle registry or a driving license registry. If it's a land case, it need to connect to a land records database. And if it's a tax, this thing, it has to connect to GST or income tax system. So this need for connectivity to be really upping the agenda of digital transformation is very, very high, and we have already seen the requirement for this for last 1.5 years is being felt all the more. And therefore, we have built up a national API exchange through which any e-governance application through a proper protocol, security, authentication, throttling can connect with the other application. So one is and when you connect, this microservices and API really come into a place. That is one part of it. Second thing is, today is not the word we are supposing I'm running e-hospital and I say, okay, I'm getting into next e-hospital. So now all the hospitals will find a downtime for a weekend and all. All that is now gone. Nobody has that kind, because the IT systems have got so deep into the functioning of the organizations. So we had already recognized this, and in fact, early January 2020, we had taken 3 initiatives to transform our existing projects into microservices projects, and which is e-hospital, we will call next gen e-hospital. It is at a very advanced stage, maybe another month or so, we will release that package to the hospitals for using it. Second is our finance, because in lot of states we are doing the integrated finance management system. There again, if you have to see from budget allocation to expenditure to finally going down to this thing, you again need a lot of modules. And finance system also you can never make it down. So that also we are converting into a microservice based architecture. It will give us 2 advantages. One is it will give us the agility that I can change a particular module while keep everything at rest. Second thing is, supposing if there is a state and if it has one component of finance management system working fine and they don't want to change this, we can always, through a microservice architecture, we can always let that module be as it is and install only those services, that additional component which you are looking for. So a lot of agility, lot of flexibility, and the requirement of availability will be met if you have these things, and I think that is the way to go. In fact, just to add to this, last year we've also opened Center of Excellence on Microservices in Cochin, which is because I understand microservice is not only a technology, it's a cultural change when you talk of software development team. So this Center of Excellence is proactively working, engaging with NIC development teams, helping them understand the nuances of this, and also help them transform their existing products. In fact, we have kind of taken a strategy. Any new product which is now going into a major revision should be very positively evaluated from microservice. And once you have microservice, you need containers, you need Kubernetes. Without that, you can't handle the whole DevOps you will need. So definitely, in fact, we already have Kubernetes set up with us. There is a program of the government called iGOTS, which is for the training of DOPT, for the training of all IS officers, or rather all government officers. It's a kind of virtual academy being done, which is completely on Kubernetes and all those open source components. And we have already made it operational in our data center on Kubernetes setup.
Very interesting, ma'am. And naturally, so is there a priority that you have? Because I know NIC runs a lot of applications. So you talked about 3 of them being top priority. So is there a framework where you've said, okay, over the next 12 months, 24 months, this is the priority, or it comes from what I'm trying to ask is it being followed through a centralized approach, or it's managed by the DDGs that manage these applications and the infrastructure below them as an approach? So, or is there a plan saying, okay, these ones should go first, these ones should go later? So what's the thought process behind that?
In the last 5 years, we have done a lot of transformation the way we do software development. So while on one end, our teams keep engaging with the department, with the state government to take care of their day-to-day small requirements. Like COVID came, somebody wanted to set up a war room, somebody wanted to set up this thing, any other immediate application to connect. So we let that happen because you can't really, overnight change whole system. But at the back, we have a technical advisory group which has the best of technology experts of NIC who constantly keep looking that what are the applications which are common across these things. And we then engage and put a specific team who builds a product around it by leveraging the knowledge we have. So today we have around 25 robust products for digital transformation, which are world-class products and which can be used either through our cloud or they can put up in there. Like e-office is today, it is running in more than 500 organizations and state government. You look at our e-procurement, it again has about 400 individual users. E-hospital, you have talked about. E-court. Similarly, we have an e-prison system. Similarly, we have early this year, we launched 3 new products. One is e-auction for any state government, any kind of a open close auction, even Prime Minister's those possessions which he had got gifts were also auctioned through that platform that is there. Then we have e-Abkari, which is for the state excise, single product today running in 5 different states, and helping in. Similarly, we had PSC Soft, which is for the public service commissions of the states. So like this, there are around 25 different products, and now if any state has a requirement as a matter of administration, they cannot build any other solution for this. They have to use this product. But we have a very strong teams who are building this product, who have to be responsive to take care of. So there's a complete ecosystem is built up. And I'm really happy to tell you that when I initially joined, there used to be a lot of resistance because everybody wants their own this thing and they thought they'll get less points. But today it has happened other way around. If they have to do a system, because this whole strategy is matured now, they always kind of send a lookout in those senior officers groups saying that is anybody has a system like this feature, because this, how do you really make a product and how do you run it has been really mastered well within NIC, and that is why these 25%. So that is one part which we focus. And like this year, early year, as I told, work from anywhere, our Honorable Minister had launched this in Vigyan Bhavan. Then we had e-auction. Then we also had this PSC Soft and one more product. I'm just forgetting the name of that third product. E-cabinet, which has come out of this COVID. Only Uttarakhand state government wanted to do their cabinet meetings virtually, and they are very secret meetings. So they build a product, and within the span of, because in our monthly meetings we share these information. The first, that product is evaluated by our technical advisory group. When it says it's fit to go for a product, then we circulate everybody. So it's been, so we have our own roadmap that how we have to, because our endeavor is that when any organization, because when digital transformation will reach to the towns and smaller organizations, they did not reinvent the wheel. They can simply adopt these products directly, and we'll over the time launch more of them onto our own cloud. But we always keep an option of state having, because sometimes states may have to have their own installation. So that will be there, and they should actually have pick and this kind of a basket of offerings, and they can pick up based on their priority and use it. So that's how things are going. That individual software development has been reduced to a very, very minimal now.
No, makes sense, ma'am. Having assets that can be used across departments, across groups is very powerful, and that's how the open source world also benefited. That the fact that you have assets that can be verified and downloaded and used to enhance progress. Ma'am, coming to that, so then I clearly see a theme emerging which says, okay, all the new apps or the next version of the important apps that you have should be developed around microservices, etc. They should continue to use a combination of on-prem or cloud, depending on the scale and the availability of infrastructure. Then obviously there should be a need for managing this new type of applications on the existing infrastructure that you have as well. Say, for example, if your today's infrastructure of private cloud at Bhubaneswar, Delhi, or the smaller clouds that you have in various cities is capable of handling VMs, it should tomorrow morph into something that is also capable of handling containers and Kubernetes for these applications to be available and ready. And I expect that to be a natural thought process. And second, leading to that, I just wanted your comments on, for example, right now we see them as data centers in isolation. You have some very large data center and some small ones in various state capitals, etc., which we keep calling them as mini clouds. But do you see a point of time where you will need a single pane of glass as a manageability console so that you can figure out where is it that you have infrastructure capacity at NIC, how is it running somewhere else, and then can you again move workloads to where there is need? Say, for example, COVID again has taught us, right, that the pressure points may be in different states at in different points of time. And therefore, you need agility in how you deploy IT infrastructure as well to support what the environment is. So just wanted some thoughts of that on, for example, you have had this massive program where you've built these so many versions of data centers, clouds over the years. What's your thought on how do you get them to all come together and act seamlessly for providing a better experience to the user or the developer?
I think, Gaurav, you need to be talking to us more often to be updated on this. As far as our national cloud is concerned, data centers are just availability zones for us. There is a single portal called cloud.gov.in. all services of our national cloud are being accessed to this. User has the option to choose in which availability zone they want to go to Bhubaneswar, they want to go to Delhi, or they want to go to Hyderabad, or they want to go to Pune. And then we have 2 other data centers coming. That is only a matter of choice. But as far as the overall framework is concerned, that is the same framework. It is the same cloud.gov.in. Now, when you come to Kubernetes, Kubernetes-based setup is already operational and applications are being delivered through this in our NDC Bhopal. I'm sorry, NDC Bhubaneswar, in our data center in Bhubaneswar, and also in Delhi. There's a whole application of defense you must have heard, which Home Minister had launched regarding this canteens automation. All defense canteens all over the world, all over the country. Similarly, this IGOT application, which is also a very big project of the government, because all government services across all cadres will be online trained on this system. These 2 systems on Kubernetes are already operational in NIC Bhubaneswar data center. But the access to this is again through our cloud.gov.in. So that integration is already in place as far as the national data center is concerned. Mini clouds in states was an idea which we kind of explored last year. That was, we thought we have these state centers who have a lot of knowledge of IT management. Why not we upgrade them to a cloud? Because going forward, we need to make a lot of cloud culture reach in the state governments also. So we had given these, because states sometimes may have an inhibition of coming onto a national cloud and things like this. We thought, why not give them these small setups? It will make them evaluate and rather appreciate the impact of cloud and the kind of benefits you have, and also give them the confidence that operating a cloud is not that. They can really burn their hands on and learn all those things. So tomorrow they become our ambassador in promotion of cloud underneath district, sub district level. They can give that comfort. Cloud में डालने से सब कुछ safe है, कोई problem नहीं है. So it was more to give them an experience and also give states a bit of this thing. But my basic focus is to make all those officers who've been running in infrastructure, give them a direct hands-on experience on managing their own cloud. So they become more confident and they become more ready for the new technologies to come. In fact, some of them, we have already opened them and asked them, you put up Kubernetes labs also, because so that they get used to containers and things like this. So mini cloud is that way kept, but then the central team of national is already working that in case any mini cloud application kind of scales up, how can it burst into our national cloud? And maybe going forward, how can, if needed, can burst into any of the public cloud also. So those kind of thought process and planning for that is also on at the same time.
Absolutely, ma'am, and very insightful. And you're right, I should talk to you more often. And my last question, ma'am, actually, and I know we're just 4 minutes away, but I know you've achieved a lot in the last 5 years with a lot of, the email becoming widespread, the e-office becoming, and all these were new things that came really up to being massively adopted in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, starting from grounds up, infrastructure setup, etc. What is the thing that keeps you awake for the next 12, 24 months in the sense, what does NIC need to do to become even more important or transformative to what is the road ahead? Where do you see you and your officers spending their next 12, 24 months from achieving what you've already achieved and therefore starting as a base point? I know some of that you would have already said, but what comes to top of mind on that?
See, there are 2-3 things which really I feel we should focus. First of all, I'm really thankful to a lot of my colleagues who, on my request and my putting pressures, have really come up and picked up all these new technologies. But we need to spread these technologies till my district level officers. They also need to be as well versed to be able to really act as an advisor to the district administration. So therefore, we have nowadays a lot of focus on capacity building of our officers. We have been doing a lot of digital skilling platform. In fact, because we were in the process of setting up our own IT academy, But because of this COVID, it got little delayed, where we could really give a lot of residential training to our officers. We were planning to send a lot of people even outside India for getting training and all those things. So that is an aspect we need to focus, and we need to be always on. I mean, it is something which is not one-time activity. We have to continue. We have achieved a lot. Like, I'll give you an example. Since 2017, we have been doing a half-an-hour webinar from NIC to NIC. And at 1:30 during lunchtime, it happens. And it is without a failure, it has happened even during COVID, it has continued to happen.
Wow.
And now it is such a way that there's a more demand and less slots available. So I'm very happy that people are sharing, because there is again a difference of, depending on your district, you may not have that exposure than what you have this. Second thing, which is, I think we have those set up Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence. That is a domain we need to pick up a lot of these things. And we need to actually embed these technologies into our existing solutions, whether it is data analytics, whether it is data science, or whether it is artificial intelligence. We have done some good exercise. Like during this COVID, we have built 28 different chatbots in different languages to help government offices increase their availability to the citizens with respect to their services. But there's much more need to be done, and we need to really work. And as you know, we go into digital transformation, and we hear these cases of cyber attacks here and there. So that is something which really keeps me up. And I always worry that how do we really up our efforts on cybersecurity continuously to keep pace with because it is the trust of the government on which we kind of thrive, and we have that privilege, and therefore we have a lot of responsibility towards keeping these systems secure, and which really needs to be looked into 360 degrees, not just by putting few devices you'll be able to secure. So that is another agenda we really focus, and I think we really need to focus much more, because as transformation will increase, these attacks will increase. So we also have to up our defense on this. We have a very capable NIC CERT, which 24 hours, but I think we need to strengthen them more to be able to take this new responsibility.
Thank you, ma'am. Very insightful. So if I summarize it, it's basically enabling work from anywhere, modernizing apps through use of new technologies and using APIs, using microservices so that everything is up, and the culture of nothing can go down ever needs to be there, and focus on skills in cybersecurity and use of AI, machine learning, data science as we make these intelligence applications more intelligent. But I can just share a personal example with you, ma'am. My son is doing computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon in US, and I was just talking to him about the vaccination experience. So he was saying it's a joke because a friend of his actually got all 3 vaccines done, and the only certificate they get is a paper certificate which they keep in their wallet. Versus, for example, I shared with him, like, within a minute of my vaccination, first or second dose, I knew when I was actually in the line, I could see people who did not know what was their first dose, and it was the IT system that told them that you were Covishield, so you should get Covishield, or you were Covaxin, so you should Covaxin. So what these systems that the government builds, I don't think the international press gets the scale that we operate at, and sometimes we get more criticism than we need to. But I really feel proud of some work, and I actually shared my certificate with a lot of my friends in US, saying that look at something like this. This is so powerful, and getting this in a minute of getting your vaccination done for a population as large as ours is quite remarkable. So thank you, ma'am, for your contribution and your focus. Would love to stay in touch. Thank you, Pragya, and thank you, Mr. Adhikari.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you so much, Neeta ma'am. And thank you for sharing that example, Gaurav. And it really speaks about the fact that how, as you rightly mentioned, that sometimes we just get too much criticism than we actually deserve. And yeah. The personal experience is the same when my father got vaccinated. And in a minute, the certificate came. And it all speaks about the great efforts in technology enablement that India has done. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please take care. Stay safe.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
So now I invite Tech Talk by Shri Pankaj Shukla, Director SE Enterprise VMware India. Can I request Shri, before we begin the panel discussion, NIC Powering Digital Governance in India, I request Shri Pankaj Shukla, Director SE Enterprise VMware India.
Pragya, if you can enable the sharing for me. I'm not able to share the presentation.
Okay. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah. Can you see my presentation? Pragya?
Yes, Pankaj, we can see your presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. I think DG ma'am has kind of given a perfect pretext to what I want to talk today. And she already spoke about NIC journey, which NIC is going through right now with multi-cloud application modernization and security. And that is the topic of my discussion today. So what I'll do is that I'll kind of give you a view of what is VMware doing in all these three aspects of multi-cloud application modernization and intrinsic security. So let me start off by sharing this VMware vision, which I'm sure that most of you would have already seen, which is of any app, any cloud, and any device. And we have been sharing this for last 4 or 5 years. And this is kind of has not changed over last 4 to 5 years. Rather, this kind of has become more real in these times, in today's time, when we are going through a very difficult time where the organizations need to work from anywhere, need to access any application and the data and the application which is residing in anywhere in the cloud, right? So essentially, it is about helping our customers to build modern applications, run traditional cloud native and SaaS-based applications on any cloud, whether it is private cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud, edge, or in case of telcos, and then deliver those applications to any device and sitting irrespective of the place where they are sitting, so anywhere, right? And then security kind of built in to each of these layers. So that is the vision which we want to build, and this is how we want to build a digital foundation for our customers. Right? Now, this is how we execute this vision, especially if as customers are trying to modernize their data centers and trying to achieve their business and technology objectives. These are the 5 ways in which we want to reach out to our customers. The first one is application modernization. Now, this is where we know that, as ma'am said, that that NIC is also looking to transform most of the apps which you are running for e-governance and digital India. And the basic purpose is to improve the developer productivity. And with our Tanzu suite of products and services which we have, basically we help achieve 3 things. First is that we help organizations to adopt lean and agile practices and establish a practice of building microservices based applications and establish a culture of building modern apps and cloud native apps. That's the first thing. The second is that we try to help customers to transform their monoliths from their monolithic applications to microservices based applications. And the third is that we kind of provide tools and technologies which moves the code to production in a faster and a continuous basis. So these are 3 things which we try to achieve from application modernization. Second, multi-cloud. Here, this is about helping customers to build private cloud, which we have done to NIC and many other customers with VMware Cloud Foundation. And it is also about extending the same private cloud to multiple data centers as you have across within your NIC, multiple national and mini clouds that provides an ability to extend it to multiple data center and also extend to multiple public clouds. Because we have partnered with most of the public cloud vendors where they run VMware infrastructure within their data center. So this kind of makes it easy for you to migrate your applications from your data center to a public cloud or any other public cloud, and if required, you can come back to your data center in a manner in which, for example, you move your virtual machines from one server to the other server, or then you move to others, and then come back to the same server or cluster. Right? So this is what we do in the multi-cloud space, and products like vRealize, Cloud Foundation, Cloud Health, secure state, etc., come under the multi-cloud portfolio. Third is that you cannot achieve multi-cloud and application modernization without having a virtual networking fabric. Because as your landscape evolves to have multiple clouds, VMs, containers, devices, endpoints, or branches, for example, you need to have a consistent networking fabric, which kind of abstracts the underlying complexities of individual clouds and individual systems. And this kind of gives you a seamless connectivity across all of these. And here, NSX, VeloCloud, AVI load balancing, these are some of the products which we have, which come under the virtual cloud networking category, which provides you a complete networking fabric abstracted from underlying complexities. Fourth is Anywhere Workspace, and this is something which ma'am also spoke about and most relevant today. And here, what we do is that we provide a platform which provides ability for users to get their own choice of devices, whether it is mobile, PCs, laptops, etc., and then can sit anywhere, and then in a very simple manner can access applications which are residing in your data center or in the public clouds. So basically, VMware Workspace ONE and Horizon are some of the products which take care of the Anywhere Workspace. Finally, intrinsic security, and here intrinsic is the important word. As you say that VMware is traditionally not known for security, but we are getting a lot of attention in last couple of years for our new approach, which we call to deal with the modern threat landscape, which we call as intrinsic security. Now, VMware Carbon Black, for example, which is a leader in EDR and endpoint security solution, has been integrated with multiple products which we have, for example, vSphere, NSX, Workspace ONE, so that it provides you an ability to bake in security as you go about building infrastructure, applications, software, and networks, etc. And security is not dealt as an afterthought, right? So this is how, using these 5 solution platforms, we help build a digital business or a modern infrastructure for our customers, right? Now, we might not have time today to go in depth of each of these technologies, but I'll talk briefly about app modernization, multi-cloud, and security a bit, which is kind of very, very critical for a digital transformation journey, right? So now, before I talk about the products and tools which we have, many of you might not be aware that most of the VMware's modern app portfolio is based on open source technologies. And we have a number of open source technologies where we not only use open source products and technologies, but also lead projects. For example, VMware is the top 3 contributor to open source Kubernetes community. And then you can, on the right side, you can see the number of tools which you see here is basically Contour, Velour, Octant, Sonobuoy, and these are the technologies which are related technologies for building modern apps and running modern apps, right? VMware, after its acquisition of Pivotal, is also the custodian of Spring Project, which is the most popular Java development productivity platform, which most of your developers might be using. So we have got a complete portfolio of building, running, and managing modern apps based on open source technologies to the extent possible. And we provide the ability for you to use those open source softwares and run it in production at scale, right? And I'll briefly talk about some of these tools here. Here, what you see here is the tools which we call as, which fall under Tanzu products and services, Tanzu suite of products and services. And these are the tools which we have. The idea, basic idea behind these tools is basically to allow for extreme automation, right? So that when you go about building applications and running applications, you should have an extreme automation, bake-in security as you go about building software, align to open source technologies as much as possible, and build for scale. So for example, if you need to scale, for example, you want to scale for to the scale which India has, how do you scale it to multiple departments, to multiple ministries, etc. Right? So that is the idea behind these tools. And these tools are divided into 3 parts. One is that tools which help you build your applications, the tools which help you run your applications, and tools which help you manage your modern applications, right? Now, as I said, that VMware being the custodian of the Spring Open Spring framework, we provide an enterprise support for Spring tools like Spring Boot, Spring-based API gateway, data platform, etc. The Tanzu applications service is the erstwhile Cloud Foundry, the very popular CF push which used to automate the entire process of moving code to production. Tanzu build service, which automates the process of converting your code into a secure container image. Application catalog, which provides hundreds of open source packages and delivered to you as a catalog for your developers to go and consume in a secure manner, and those packages are secure. This includes data services. This includes various tools which you use for building your modern applications. So these are some of the tools which we offer as far as building the application is concerned. Then from the run perspective, we provide an enterprise grade Kubernetes with all associated technologies, which we call as Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. And the Tanzu Kubernetes Grid provide you an ability to run your applications which you have built on Kubernetes, which you can run on vSphere environment, on a VMware infrastructure. And many of you would be aware that we have integrated Kubernetes as part of vSphere. So Kubernetes is now just like a feature, any other feature which you have in vSphere, Kubernetes is available just as a feature. And you can use the same vCenter to manage your Kubernetes environment, right? But the same Tanzu Kubernetes is also available to run on multiple clouds, which means that if you want to run it on VMware Cloud, on AWS, or any other public cloud which you want to run. So it means that you build applications once based on Tanzu Kubernetes, and then after that you get an ability to run across multiple clouds and multiple platforms, right? And then as you have built your applications, after that, what you would want is that as you start running it in production, observability of and monitoring and application performance of those applications becomes very, very critical. So Tanzu Observability provides that app monitoring and analytics capability across the stack, from software to infrastructure, to pinpoint the root cause of if there is any slow user response from the application point of view. Then there are other tools, for example, for multi-cluster management, which we call as Tanzu Mission Control, Service Mesh, which provides secure connectivity across APIs. So these are the tools which we provide as far as the manage is concerned, right? So the overall objective here is to achieve the complete DevSecOps for the organization. And unlike some of our competitors, these tools are available as a whole and are also available in modular fashion. So that because every customer is at a different stage of their DevOps journey. So the engagement model is basically to understand the environment and then understand your existing tools and processes, and then identify gaps and propose the right set of tools, and not everything as many of other vendors provide, right? Now, apart from these tools, maybe most of you might also not be aware that VMware provides almost a holistic solution for data services, which when we go about building modern applications. So for example, when you talk of RDBMS, the MySQL, Postgres, as far as the message queue is concerned, VMware provides RabbitMQ, and for the caching memory database, the Genfire is the solution which many of our customers in India, in fact, Indian Railways uses it at a pretty large scale. And then as far as the analytics database is concerned, the Greenplum is the solution which provides you the data warehousing and Greenplum capability. Now, the point which I want to make is that while most of your developers are already using some of these tools and technologies, right? Because these are available as an open source, and you might be getting support from multiple vendors. And VMware also provides enterprise support for updates, patches, etc. But the differentiation is not that we provide enterprise support for bug fixes, etc. But the unique value proposition here is that VMware provides this as a database, as a service for all these databases through a unified portal. So for example, if NIC wants to deliver DB as a service to its developers or maybe other ministries or departments, NIC can integrate with Meghraj as a DB as a service platform, from way of which where they can provide a managed DB as a service to the developers and the departments and the ministries, etc. Right? And you would have heard of something like Amazon RDS, which they provide as a managed database service if you go to AWS. Now, the same capability which we are bringing it to on-prem and to customers who are running private clouds, where we provide all these capabilities of provisioning, flexibility, ramp up time, monitoring, security, compliance and governance, backup services, etc. of all these databases which I just spoke about, for example, Postgres, MySQL, or it could be messaging service, or it could be analytics and database service, which typically you would require for running any modern apps, right? So this is how the platform provides you the tools, and this kind of provides you a summary of what I just spoke of from the data management perspective, where you will have these databases provided as a service, which you can run either on vSphere, on Kubernetes, or you can run on the public clouds or edge, or you're in multiple data centers. And that's how you get a comprehensive data services solution. So in summary, what I just spoke of about is the tools which you can build your modern apps. You can get the application catalog of open source packages, use data services, run it from your cloud, and get a comprehensive holistic solution for building, running, and managing your modern and cloud native apps. Now, what I just wanted to also talk about is Tanzu Labs. Now here, the idea here is that for customers who might be using different kind of tools, because we are running in an environment where, as ma'am said, that you are already using Kubernetes and a number of tools. So this is a pure services approach, which we called as VMware Tanzu Labs. What the Tanzu Labs is a services approach which includes hundreds of experts from erstwhile Pivotal, Heptio, and VMware, and Bitnami, and so on, which kind of engages with your teams, which are whether your product managers or engineers or developers or designers, to build agile practice or a lean agile practice for modern development in the organization. So for example, if you want to build a modern practice, DevOps, DevSecOps practice within your organization without thinking about which tool or which vendor I want to use, but I just want to build a services model for DevSecOps, how do I approach it? So the Tanzu Labs people, based on the requirement, they kind of engage with your engineers. They can help you transform a particular module of an application, but the idea here is to enable your team, wherein as they go about transforming one module or one application, they enable your team so that they can transform other modules and other applications and then kind of scale it moving forward, right? So that's the idea. And this is a pure services approach which is a technology vendor agnostic approach, which means you decide that which tools and you want to use, but this is a services approach which provides the methodology that how do you go about doing all this. So this is what I wanted to share from the perspective of from modern apps. Briefly, let me talk of the multi-cloud piece, where that how do we achieve multi-cloud. As you know that VMware Cloud Foundation is provides kind of the fastest path to build a private cloud, which speeds the deployment of a software-defined data center, right? And kind of automates the lifecycle management. So what we are doing is that we are extending the same cloud foundation either to your multiple data centers or to multiple public clouds, whether it is AWS or it is Azure or GCP or Ali or any cloud which you want to think of, or your own NIC mini clouds, etc., which you can integrate it, or Oracle Cloud, and then kind of provide a unified visibility and a single management pane to manage all those clouds under a single management plane, wherein you can move your applications from one cloud to the other cloud. The two important points which you see here is that most of these clouds run VMware Cloud Foundation within their data center, which means that you are kind of extending your data center to those multiple clouds which you are running on VMware. Second, you also get an ability to use the native services which reside side by side of those data centers, which you can use the native services from these hyperscalers as well. So that's how you get an ability to run VMs on VMware infrastructure across clouds, but also get an ability to use the native services which these clouds specialize and offer, right? Moving on, as you see here, typically what happens is that when we talk of application modernization or application transformation, in the same breath, we also talk of cloud, right? And so what VMware has, especially from this year, what we have done is that we are not taking these two things, which is application transformation and cloud, are two different distinct technologies and solution groups. Rather, we are kind of bringing these two technologies, which is VMware Cloud Foundation, which achieves you the private cloud and multi-cloud, and Tanzu, which achieves you the application transformation. We are bringing these two and then calling it as VMware Cloud, which kind of, and then it is being taken to a much bigger and broader level, where the Cloud Foundation has been made available, as I said, across multiple clouds and hyperscalers and other VMware clouds, which typically multi-panel providers run. We realize this provides you the management layer across these clouds and provide you as a service model, and then Tanzu integrated on top of that, which kind of provides you to build, run, and manage applications, right? The cloud native applications, wherein, and this kind of gives you an ability to run traditional VM-based applications as well as Kubernetes-based applications across your multiple clouds. So what we are calling it as VMware Cloud, right? Now, as I wrap up, given the time which I had, I want to briefly talk about VMware's intrinsic security solution, which I just briefed about in the 5 solution platform slide. Now here what you see is that, as I said, the intrinsic security means that security is kind of built in as you go about building your infrastructure, platforms, clouds, endpoints, etc. Right? And it's not treated as an afterthought, that after you have built your infrastructure and software, and then you deploy security tools on top of that. Right? Now, as you can see here, that we need to protect apps and data, which is at the center of the slide, right? But you need to cater for the points which you need to secure, which are workloads, clouds, networks, access, and endpoints, etc. Now, here what you see is that VMware Carbon Black helps you protect the workloads and endpoints, and provides the endpoint detection and response, next generation antivirus and vulnerability assessment, and takes care of the needs of the InfoSec teams which you have, right? So all the endpoints, which could be server endpoints, workloads, or the client endpoints, mobile desktops, etc. It's something which is taken care by Carbon Black to provide you endpoint detection, response, and endpoint solutions, right? Second is the network, network is again very critical from security point of view. That white perimeter is taken care by traditional appliances, which you have. The modern day threats kind of needs to be taken care from east-west perspective as well. And NSX delivers micro-segmentation, and you know that it is implemented at many customers, including NIC, where you get the micro-segmentation to protect against east-west security. Now, what we have also added on top of that is ATP solution, which provides you sandboxing, and the SASE platform, which we are bringing, the IDS and IPS, which we recently launched, which is called distributed IDS and IPS. The IDS and IPS, which you will have at your perimeter in terms of appliance, but from east-west perspective, we have something called distributed IDS and IPS at each host, which provides you a complete zero trust security from the east-west perspective, right? And this kind of takes care of the need of your networking teams. Right? The third is the VMware Workspace ONE. VMware Workspace ONE manages the devices, apps, and maintains the posture of and the access based on identity and entitlement, irrespective of the device and location which we have, right? And this kind of takes care of your end user service teams, so for example, if an IC goes for a anywhere workspace kind of environment, anywhere work environment, then they will have users who will be using their own devices, mobiles, laptops. Then you will be delivering your applications from an IC data center to them. How do you manage across all those devices? The app, how do you deliver securely those applications to those devices? How do you take care of the posture, patching, etc. of those devices, Windows 10, Mac, etc., which they'll be using? All this is taken care by Workspace ONE as a comprehensive unified platform from the end user point of view. Right? And then the cloud, for customers who are using the public cloud services, VMware has a cloud the secure state solution, which provides you a secure configuration management of cloud services, which is again a very unique offering for customers who are very heavy users of of the cloud services. So this is what kind of provides, and the point here is that most of these things are integrated with each other, right? The most of these solutions are integrated, and as I said, the Carbon Black, NSX, vSphere, Workspace ONE, etc., are integrated with each other to provide an intrinsic security model, so that when you go about building your infrastructure and software, you get the comprehensive security. And then no security is complete without having a complete visibility, so that you can get a sense of what is happening at different points, endpoints, workloads, clouds, etc. And then it apart along with that, it also provides you the automation and orchestration, right? That if there is any anomaly, how do you automatically correct that? How do you quarantine a particular VM or an endpoint device? So this is what I wanted to share in a limited time which we had today. So thanks a lot, and we are in a very difficult time which we are going through right now. Stay safe and healthy. So thanks, Vaishali, and that's what I wanted to share today. Pragya?
Hello. Hi. Thank you, Pankaj, for the interesting technology insights. Now we will begin the panel discussion, NIC Powering Digital Governance in India. For that, I would like to invite Shri Ashok Paul, Deputy Director General, National Informatics Center. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Pragya.
C.K. Anthony, Deputy Director General, National Informatics Center. Sri G. Mayal Muthukumaran, Deputy Director General, National Informatics Center. And Sri Prashant Chaudhary, Director Government, VMware India, to moderate the session. Over to you, Prashant.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Pragya, and thank you, sir, I think, for joining. I think we had a great discussion with Nita ma'am, followed up by technology-driven presentation by Pankaj, who spoke about a lot of, I think, this common thing we are going to speak about in terms of app modernization, talking about how data centers can be managed and secured better, how it is a need in the pandemic environment for services to be given at home to various employees of NIC and various government sectors. So I think without further delay, Ashok sir, maybe I'll start with you and come back to Muthu sir and NC sir.
Sure.
And I think while in the initial discussion with Nita ma'am, she spoke about the journey of NIC. Now, I just wanted to understand from you what all NIC has done at different point of time, from moving from a single location to a multi-location cloud services, which talks about introducing state cloud services in the states and so on. So your views on that.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Before going into the journey of NIC, let me just give a preamble with actually the current subject. It gives me, first of all, immense pleasure to be one of the speakers of this summit on embracing digital governance during pandemic and beyond, a topic which is quite relevant in the present times. And I would like to summarize what all was required to be done during this pandemic and what all has been done. As we are all aware, COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted normal lives and citizen services globally. This has also altered IT functioning globally as well as in India. The coronavirus pandemic has accelerated the demand for implementation of various digital transformation initiatives to enable the government, employees, and industry to work seamlessly, remotely, and efficiently. Under these changed circumstances, during this period, information technology has evolved as a major tool for the government to facilitate management and monitoring of rapidly changing landscape, consequently leading to burgeoning demands for IT infrastructure. This involved development, hosting, deployment of various applications, web, mobile, and other digital platforms for effective monitoring and management and tackling of this pandemic. This Also involved facilitating government to work from any location, including that from home during strict lockdowns, and development of IT tools to ensure smooth movement of manpower and goods for essential services. Right. Let me now go to the basically journey of NIC. NIC, as far as NIC is concerned, NIC has been closely associated with Government of India at central and state levels for more than 4 decades in various aspects of e-governance, which included establishment of nationwide ICT infrastructure such as NKN, NICNET, national data centers, video conferencing infrastructure, state NIC state data centers, NIC national cloud services, and NIC state cloud services, which we are rendering now from NIC mini data centers, from 30 mini data centers spread over the country, right? Our actually data center establishment of data center journey, augmentation to national e-governance infrastructure started way back in 2003 with the establishment of a 50 rack data center center in the NIC headquarter building itself, which was further augmented at NDC Hyderabad with establishment of a 100 rack data center, national level data center, and followed by a national level data center at Pune with around more than 140 racks. And then in 2011, NIC had established largest government data center in the country with 475 racks at Delhi Shastri Park. And this was a fully virtualized data center, and most of the OEMs, COTS-based OEMs, which were at the time, number one as far as virtualization was concerned, where we had used their technologies, and this was followed up with the establishment of a national level data center with 275 racks at Bhubaneswar. This was a fully cloud enabled data center which we had established. Though we established our data center core infrastructure in one go, but we keep on powering and it in a modular fashion. We upscale, we do the enablement of cloud services in a modular fashion with the utilization of the services, with the growth in the services requirements of the cloud services. Besides this, NIC, as I told you already, NIC has 30 data centers at the states with racks ranging from 10 to 15 in the capitals. And with this overall footprint of data center space of NIC comes to 1 lakh square feet. And in as I mentioned, in Shastri Park, our data center was completely virtualized, and latest state-of-art technologies, including VMware, were actually procured at that point in time, and all the infrastructure made available in a virtual form to the applications. Now, in 2014, NIC had come out with a national cloud computing services under the Meghraj Government of India Cloud Computing Initiative of MITI, and it was the first of its kind, fully grown, government-owned and managed national cloud. However, with the launch of Digital India program and the strengthening of existing e-governance initiatives in the year 2015, requirements for cloud services had grown manifold. To cater to this increased demand, NIC further enhanced this cloud from multiple NDC locations. We already had data centers in place in Hyderabad, Pune at that point in time. So we had made these data centers also cloud enabled. And lastly, we had added NDC Bhubaneswar data center to this in year 2016. In the view of benefits of cloud computing at the center level, we then introduced NIC state cloud services, our mini cloud services from our state data centers. This has catered to the application development, testing, and hosting requirements of state and its districts, and thus eliminating need for any physical server infrastructure in the districts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So thank you, Ashok sir. I think it was really enlightening that, and I can say very proudly that I think from an infrastructure perspective, whether it is for NIC's applications or any government department which want, the NIC is ready to provide any cloud services which are there. So I'll go back to Muthu sir and just shift gears slightly in terms of while infrastructure is in place, and I can say that there is no dearth of it with so many lakhs of square feet data centers, number of racks being available. Now, when it comes to the application parts, now we know, I think there are a lot of key applications which NIC is running like e-office, e-courts, e-hospitals, which some bit of it was built on open source technology. So as a journey forward, will you be re-architecting, refactoring some of these existing applications, and will adopting cloud native technologies like container microservices will become de facto standard for app development going forward, sir?
Good afternoon all, and thanks for this good opportunity. Yeah, the question is, it is very interesting question, and in continuation with what my colleague Ashok had narrated the journey of NIC, where we started our mainframe computes to server computes through, and then finally to cloud compute, and now the orchestration of the containers, Dockers, and everything. And over this period, like even NIC had evolved the application development style from the mainframe development to the server-based or client-server-based, then web-based, cloud-based. Now our journey is towards the container-based development. Yeah, and we all agree that like there is a large applications which are in place currently, like e-office, e-court, e-hospital, to name a few. There are a bunch of applications which are in operation at a scale across the government space, where it has been conceived and conceptualized, developed over a period and evolved over a period for the time-to-time need of the government departments. So if we name the e-office, like the movement of paper-based approvals and or the whatever the necessity of the paper-based thing which was happening in government, now it is completely digitalized. So everything is happening to in a digital format. This has helped in a large scale when this pandemic outbreak started during the last year. So all of a sudden, the culture of work from home, which is very new to the government space, where people quickly could switch over their work culture from the paper-based or the e-office, which they used to do it from their office. Now they were doing it from the remote locations. Similarly, when it comes to the e-court or e-hospital, this has been developed and it is in place, like all are stable and up and running across the government space, which has been developed with the open, though it's on an open source technology, which is, but when the technology evolves, now people are looking forward to, towards a microservice-based applications and container-based application, which will work at scale, which is scalable, and it should be agile enough such that it will be accommodating very frequent changes, because change is very much inevitable in case where, though it's in a government space or in a private, wherever in government they change the policies, new schemes comes up and they come up, add upon to the new things, and it has to be up and running as well as which will be delivered very immediately. So take for example, like the operations of the lab operations of during the pandemic from the last April. NIC had took over, and when the initial space where the sample testing was happening in thousands, now it is happening in I mean millions. Okay, this it was the cloud space was architected such a way it can accommodate and scale up. Similarly, the application, though it is a very simple application and round the clock operations, so it is up and running still with the same infrastructure, and the application was in a microservice based application. So to precisely come to the e-hospital application, e-hospital, it's also a stable up and running application, which in number of hospitals, which people used to, which citizens, it is beneficial to the citizen. They book the appointment and operations and everything. It's in the digital format. they need not carry any of the test results across when they walk into the hospitals. Now, when we are plugging in with the pandemic sort of a scenario, like take for example that oxygen requirement or the remdesivir distribution, like when it is in the microservice based, like quickly a service can be developed and plugged in, and it is up, and it will be up and running. So NIC's the development culture over a period of this last 3 or 4 decades, we also evolved and started traveling along with us the technology journey and adopting those things as and when it rises. So say like Kubernetes clusters are there with us, and we are putting in a CI/CD based applications into those things. So, and we are encouraging our large applications which need to be scaled at large, and encouraging them and building slowly the what you can say, the microservice based approach, or you can say the API first approach, or CI/CD based application development. So the culture is started, and will be further evolving and migrating those legacy applications which are a long stagnant application into a microservice based applications.
Sure, thank you very much. And I think it gave us a clarity in terms of what path NIC will take and the vision what NIC has in terms of looking at the existing application, legacy application. One is obviously migrate them, but at the same time, I think have a path where create new modern application which can be more agile, which can be more faster. And you also talk about development. So I'll go back to Anthony, sir. So when it comes to development, and obviously I always believe NIC has a culture of supporting their entire team. And when it comes to the key team around developing is the developers you have, some of the very skilled developers team which NIC has. Now, my question to you is, sir, while you allow them flexibility in terms of downloading various open source packages which can be embedded into your ongoing applications, maybe from platforms like GitHub, how do you really ensure security vulnerabilities to some of these packages? Because as developers, they will require some of this to build new applications across NIC and government. So is security a concern there? Anthony, sir.
Yeah, I think there was some last minute confusion because Ratna Madam was supposed to join, I think, in the previous slide also. I think due to some this thing, she is not in a position to join.
Privileged to have you, sir.
Yeah, so I have pictured in. There are 2 aspects of cyber security. One is application security, and the other part is network security. And Ratna Madam was the right person to answer this particular question on applications, open source applications, and their security part. Of course, then, and another question which was communicated was regarding the work from home, cyber security perspective of work from home.
Yes, sir. I was coming to that next. So maybe if you want to talk about that. Sir,
so I think we'll take the second dose of vaccine first, and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let me just put for the audience, and I'll just put that question across also. So how do you manage? Because when you are talking about new applications, you have access through mobiles, where your laptops, Windows, and now with wave 2, you're looking at everybody should be scalable to work from home. So how do you see? One is need to have a unified platform which can provide access, but in a consistent and a secure fashion. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, so the cybersecurity aspects of work from home, because work from home per se, it was something which we couldn't even think of, let's say, especially in government atmosphere, because the person should be physically present in the office. That was the concept. Now the pandemic has changed that normal and created a new normal. So the major players in work from home there are 3 players. One is the people, one is the process which they follow, and one is the platform. Yeah. So when organizations shifted to work from home paradigm last year around this time, or they were vulnerable in all these fronts, and this vulnerability, the cyber attackers knows this vulnerability points better than the employees and the employer. And thanks to the setup which Mr. Kaul and Mr. Muthu has thing already NIC had in place, the state and union governments in India had somewhat a smooth sail over because of the platform already set up by NIC. The question Mr. Prashant raised was mainly with this platform part of it, work from home. And so I will jump to that because people like you and me, everyone, because once we move into the work from home environment, we will become less cautious, less alert, distractions, and so on. That they are the vulnerable part of it. Of course, the human is the weakest link of any security, whether it is cyber security or physical security, whatever. And so now coming to the platform, which was a major part of this question today. Because when we work with developers or even the network operators or anyone, infrastructure managers are there. When they work from home, they are outside the protected perimeter, secure perimeter of the organization. So that is a major challenge. And they communicate corporate data in through unsecured channel. And of course, NIC, we made it mandatory that you should have a VPN connection. And it's not that easy for many of the organizations to enforce the VPN business. And the very Wi-Fi which we use in our homes from any of the service providers, we have the default Wi-Fi name and even the password is also by default. Because when I take a connection, they'll give one name and maybe my house number, so and so, Airtel Wi-Fi house number. I'm not saying any particular OEM, it's a service provider, but any XYZ Wi-Fi from house number 1, 2, 3 like that, and the password also may be default. And people, they will get the Wi-Fi connection, or and it will be shared by all even the children who is studying online classes. So they won't care to change, or they won't care to use a difficult to guess passwords. And this the system they use, because of course the MNCs, corporates, they give their own laptops for the employees. But then suddenly a lot of people came to work from home, many organizations found it difficult to provide them the dedicated laptops or anything like that. And whatever system they use at home, they have outdated OS, if not pirated. And similarly is the case with applications. And these systems, they share with other family members for learning purpose, gaming purpose, and things like that. So now, how to manage the devices? So what we did in our as a part of network security was that because there is a complexity of platforms here, multiple platforms. So because there is a question that what the need for a unified platform. So the multiple platforms like Windows, various flavors of Linux, Mac, and things like that. And so then what we ensured is that we try to harden them with the latest patch and OS, patch of OS and applications. Again and again, we communicated them, and also that will go a long way in ensuring the security part of it. Further, antivirus was provided, the roaming client with the roaming client facility, because wherever there is a cost cutting is required, people will cut the cost in security. So antivirus because the latest whatever the version, usually Windows they themselves or the OS they themselves provide to certain extent of antivirus facility, well and good. But for all our clients, we have enabled the roaming client facility for antivirus, and so that is also so that the updates can be taken from outside NIC our own servers, because later that was the facility of roaming client. Yes, and this antivirus was provided for the mobile source, so that mobile security that these things. And any security without monitoring is not effective. So we have enforced the monitoring of the work from home, mainly the VPN usage, because whether there is access from different geographical locations, because if the person is accessing the VPN from Hyderabad or even from Delhi or whatever it is, certainly there should not be even an attempt to use from anywhere outside India, first and foremost. So, and then similar checks we used to promptly inform them that this is happening. And as I said earlier, we have conducted a lot of awareness sessions, and again about working cybersecurity aspects in work from home in general and online meetings in particular. Of course, coming to online meeting is a big chapter. I'm not going to that these things. And your question about the yes, sir, you're saying something. Yeah, regarding the just 1 minute. The unified platform, because I said that online platform, multiple platforms. It has so if we can have a unified platform, then good, because I'm going and saying yes with the caution, because it will reduce the complexities. It will be easy to administer, manage, monitor, and any replacement with the WhatsApp or anything like that. Sure. And because we had a lot of attrition even in this time, so the learning curve also will reduce. Yeah, like that. So that was the thing. Yes, Mr. Prashant.
Yeah, so and I think that would have been, I'll come back to you with the leading question on which you mentioned. So I'll go back to Mr. Kaul. Sir, just wanted to check with you, and I think while you spoke about the complete infrastructure, now NIC support to various government agencies has been there during the pandemic, and then obviously the plan to meet these challenges on a short term and long term. So are you looking at both aspects of extending that support to various government agencies as well as within?
Yes, Prashant, let me go now to the specifics. As I summarized that these work from home initiatives, and my colleagues have also mentioned about testing applications, work from home, all these initiatives were rolled out from our data centers and cloud setups, whether it was desktop or cloud-based video conferencing. And one of the major game changer in this was actually to facilitate working of government officers from the respective anywhere locations for that matter, was rolling out of an e-office back office system in a very big way. Although it was already operational in most of the offices in our office, but it was rolled to the full extent over the secured virtual private network. This has given them confidence. Okay, whatever we are going to do on our broadband Wi-Fi's, which may not be that strong, so but it will be communication will be through secure channels. Besides this, NIC has facilitated development and hosting of various applications of Apex offices, ministries, departments, state governments, and their subordinate organizations at central and state level for monitoring and management of COVID-19 pandemic. Some of these are basically PM dashboard for COVID-19 status and updates, RT-PCR application and its portal for COVID testing, specimen collection, including antibody and rapid antigen testing. All this data was actually collected over these portals and these mobile applications. Then the major battle which was actually fought during this time was our COVID variants. All these COVID variants were registered over the portal, COVID warrior portals. These COVID variants were from hospital, state, district offices, associations, individual associations, ASHA, Ayush, Anganwadi, so many other organizations which I may not be aware of. COVID-19 volunteer database was also compiled, to deal with the situation. This was done through, by National Institute of Disaster Management. Right, all these applications were actually developed and hosted in our cloud and data center. And one of the most important application which was actually developed was e-pass. E-pass was to facilitate a movement of basically facilitate a movement of essential manpower for essential services, right? And also towards this, one more application which was very important from perspective of keeping country running was transportation of agriculture produce from farmers to the citizen. This was done, monitored through Kisan Rath mobile app. And again, to tackle this COVID, various applications at various fronts. Some of them were actually hosted in national cloud. And most of them were actually also hosted in NIC mini cloud at the state level. This was a database related to home quarantine, containment zones, hotspots, migration of workers from one state to this state, right? That's all basically, yeah.
Sure, sir. And thank you very much for sharing this, sir. Muthu, sir, I think we heard from you that you're saying that NIC is already on the journey of adopting Kubernetes and then developing new modern applications based on microservices. There are two parts of this question. How are you going about bringing agility in app delivery? So you say you're on that journey. But also just want to ask you, sir, do modern architecture help you in rolling out better and features much faster compared to same period last year? Like, so are you seeing advantage of going with the new way of building applications through modern technologies?
Yeah, thank you, Prashant. Actually, if I put it rightly, like the question is like, do these modern apps delivery brings that agility to the delivery of the modern app in the delivery system, right?
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
Well, like the NIC developed various technology-based applications, like central server-based, distributed server-based, and web-based, portal-based, application app-based. A wide variety of applications are spread across the NIC. So where like you see before this pandemic 2020, like the conventional application already we were in the planning to move towards an agile application development or the microservice based application development, and we have set up a platform for this, and we were equipping ourselves and disseminating knowledge with our colleagues as that they will come into the thought process of agile application development. Knowingly or unknowingly, though we were a conventional software developers, and due to the requirement of the ministries, departments, and our users, we used to deliver. The demand was such that to deliver it next day itself. That means you can imagine that already we were prepared enough to for an agile development. Though the setup and the technology was not in place, so we are making use of the technology and all the other tools and utilities which are in place. Yes, but it is not all the same as the agility or the new microservice based application or the containerized or Docker based CI/CD is available. We are jumping into that new development. We carefully designed and look forward what are the suitable applications which really looking forward for an agility, at which new release versions are very frequent over there. Say, take for example, like Ashok was pointing out an RT-PCR app development. NIC developed an RT-PCR app where during this pandemic, the people were hesitant to collect the sample from the doorstep. So for that quickly over a few days, the RT-PCR app developed by our colleagues from Himachal, and the app was distributed, put into the app store, and people started downloading. Where the sample collector reached out to the doorstep and started collecting a sample. They were able to collect the sample, and the majority of the data punching, the demographic information, able to collect it at the right place itself instead of coming to the lab. You can imagine if a COVID positive patient or the infected patient walking to a lab, and if the number of people over there, it will be difficult. So keeping in view of this, this app was developed and it was done. But over a period, like you see from the last 2020 April onwards, the app went around 14 to 15 releases, the upgrades. So how it was possible is like, yeah, agility and the CI/CD based application development was made it possible to the release version. Recently also there was a new release version. You must be knowing that like earlier the people used to come from abroad and they used to collect a sample, and the abroad details were from country of origin. Those particulars were collected. Now those things have been stopped. Now it is within the state and all this stuff. And using this, and when the application development started, there were hardly 160 or 65 labs were there for collection. Now it is 7,600 and plus labs are there, and it's growing up. And earlier the delay for release of the, the results publishing and all these things were taking much of the time. As we are adopting the, you can say CI/CD based application, and agility was good. And we have adopted the latest technology such that we'll be able to release all those, timely releases are there for the users, right? So, but at the same time, there are applications which are there, which are there. The legacy applications are there. Slowly, we are exploring the possibility how it can go for the, how we can go for the CI/CD based or a DevOps based application. And it's not necessarily all will be fitting into that sort of a requirement, right? But still, NIC has already initiated, and already we have a microservice gateway such that all the microservices will be able to communicate, and we are having, as DG ma'am has also pointed out, we have an API gateway where the application wants to expose their data or the services, they will be exposing that APIs in this platform. So quick application development is also possible using those APIs.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And I think from the application side, I'll sum it up. And as you quickly said, I think the only way to do this was to adopt agile development as a methodology within NIC, and that's where the agility came in. And towards this journey, I think you start looking at new technologies and platform which can actually help you to do, because you had that challenge, and I'm sure I think this challenge will keep coming. So from an NIC perspective, you will keep looking at new ways of rolling out applications even faster than the way you are doing right now. Maybe some of the new platforms and tools which really help you in rolling out new applications from scratch, or even refactoring or remodernizing existing applications. So thank you very much, sir, on your views on the application side of it. So I'll go to Anthony, sir. Sir, I think you spoke about from work from home challenges, and you highlighted some of the concerns from security side. So network need to be plugged, and then the users which will be using either through a mobile or desktop. I think you highlighted one term which you said, if there was a unified platform which could actually do all of this, because today there is a network issue, there is a desktop to be protected, there is a mobile to be protected, because it is end of the day connecting to your applications running within the data center, and anybody can leverage those vulnerabilities. So as you mentioned, will a single platform which can be delivered, I will call it work from home service from NIC's cloud, to all your employees as well as to various work, the department will take away this pain, sir, if there was a unified platform and can be delivered as a service from NIC's cloud?
When we say about a unified platform, we should distinguish slightly between what NIC is doing and what NIC is providing. Okay, NIC is development is also going on here.
Absolutely.
But the rest of the government departments, they are only using the applications, work from home, and like Mr. Muthu said that e-office and things like that, email and things like that. They are only, so we should see that it's a service provider. So to provide those services, we are developing these applications and things. So yes, single platform may not suit all this, but of course for work from home of the government employees in various state and central governments, we have this what somebody was saying about the single sign-on Parijay and things like that, even mail integration and all such platforms are in place. It can be more or less a unified platform. And for the development part, that's what I just mentioned earlier also. Using unified platform as a development team or as a development things, it will help a lot. It will help a lot as it will reduce the complexities and reduce the learning curve, and then all the management and all will be quite simpler and easier. And you'll have when suddenly some requirement come, when we have to shift the team from one project to another and all. So there also the learning curve comes, and all this will be advantage for that.
Sure, sir. And thank you very much for your views. And I think work from home will be very critical now, not for NIC, I think for everyone. I have not seen Office for 14 months now, so I've just used
great.
My laptop.
Mr. Kaul and Mr. Muthu are at home, but today anyway I came to office. But
sure,
I'm seeing after 14 days.
I'm also in the office.
You are in the office? Oh, great. I am seeing after 14 days because I have no issues.
So thank you, sir. And I think one final question, Ashok sir, I'll come back to you on before concluding this.
Sure.
So I think we have heard this many times, and NIC, I will say one nation, one platform, leveraging the power of cloud technology. So I think I'll just like to hear.
Yeah, I think DG ma'am also mentioned in her address that we have actually developed an unified cloud service portal for multi-location cloud services. Users have an option to choose as to where they want to, from which location they want to take cloud. In future, this cloud service, unified service portal will be an integrated portal for all the services, whether it be a national cloud services, state cloud services, or cloud services being rendered from open source or code-based platforms. Right, it will be a single platform for all the NIC services. NIC, besides this, has I need to mention here, has also developed a cloud out of open source, softwares such as OpenStack, which is now operational with the production workloads at NDC Bhubaneswar and NDC Delhi. This also includes compute, software-defined network, software-defined storage, and with all the three flavors, basically file, block, and object. So here we have actually gone a step ahead. We have included micro-segmentation at the each user level. Besides, also basically to leverage the benefits of the cloud, NIC has been promoting the development of cloud-ready applications based on microservice architecture. We want people to use first, in order to avail the benefits of cloud, that they come up with the applications which are developed under microservice architecture, wherein each service actually is independent and atomic in nature. These services would be accessible from API homes, API gateways. Modularity in the microservices will support independent updates, deployments, and help single point failures, which can prevent even then large scale outages. It also facilitates seamless vertical and horizontal scaling in the cloud platforms. And besides this, NIC has also developed in-house native tools for DevOps ecosystems with CI/CD pipeline. This includes Kubernetes as a service for management, configuration, and automation of containerized applications. A container as a service wherein users are not required to manage their resources, but focus on their application and its development. NIC has also made its own GitHub of source code repository, which is available to NIC cloud users on this cloud portal.
Sure. Thank you, sir. And I think I'll sum it up and few key takeaways. Anyway, I think we talk about the infrastructure being there, but I think even the infrastructure being available, there is a need to have a unified management across all data center, make it even more secure. Yeah, you said,
of course.
Not just at the data center level security, but doing even micro segmentation, maybe even the need to enhance it to even workload level security, device level security, app level security, built-in fire, not just perimeter level when we talk about firewall and IPS, IDS, maybe built-in within workloads as well. So thank you very much, sir, for your views. Thank you, sir, for
Prashant.
from the application side of it, and then work from home obviously remains the key point of contention right now, and how can we really enable our workflows sitting at home in this pandemic. And thank you very much, sir, for your views.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, Avadh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Prashant, for moderating it so well. Thank you, Ashok also, for joining us today. CJ Anthony, sir, thank you so much for joining us. Muthu, sir, thank you so much for accepting our invite and be a part of this interesting panel discussion. And thank you, audience, for being here. And we would be happy to take your questions offline if you would want to have anything to share with us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye-bye.